global terrifying heatwave is approaching, but my mother gave the air conditioner at home to my uncle. In the end, our whole family was literally roasted to death in the room because of this. Before she died, she was moved by her own actions, claiming that she hadn't let down my maternal grandfather's entrustment, yet she completely forgot about me, my younger brother, and my father. The huge resentment made me reborn on the day when my mother asked my uncle to come and take away the air conditioner. This time, I packed her off, rented a house for myself, and bought 3 of the best air conditioners. 1. The news was reporting that the terrifying heatwave was about to arrive. Although it wasn't the end of the world, the outside temperature might be unbearable for people. Many factories and work units had given long vacations, allowing people to stay at home and avoid this heat wave. Air conditioners were in short supply, and the price had already risen to 50,000 to 60,000 yuan each. The whole city was in a panic. Just then, my uncle came crying, saying that his family simply didn't have the money to buy an air conditioner, and they were renting a small, old, and poorly ventilated house. He was afraid that they would soon be roasted to death by the heat. My mother felt sorry for her younger brother and immediately asked someone to remove the air conditioner and give it to my uncle's family. When she saw me and my younger brother coming back from vacation, she felt a bit guilty and smiled, saying, "I think the news is just talking nonsense. How could the temperature be that high? I've stocked up more ice cream for you. When you feel hot, you can just eat some. Don't be angry. I think your uncle's family needs the air conditioner more." I also smiled and said, "Mom, look at what you're saying. We're more than happy that you gave the air conditioner to Uncle. After all, he's our only uncle. But Mom, have you ever thought that Grandma is old, and neither Uncle nor Aunt is good at doing housework, and the 3 cousins are still young? There's no one to clean up the house. When installing the air conditioner, someone really needs to tidy up a bit." When my mother heard this, her eyes lit up and she said, "That's right. How could I forget that? Then you two just make do with some food. I'll go and help them clean up and come back tomorrow." "Don't go. The heatwave won't arrive for several days. You should help Uncle's family stock up on some things." "How would they know how to do it?" At this point, my younger brother tugged at the corner of my clothes, and his eyes were red with anger, but my mother thought I was sensible and praised me several times. Then she hurried to get some things and left with the truck carrying the air conditioner to contribute to my uncle's family, too. I went back to the room and looked at the messy house. I burst out laughing so hard that tears came to my eyes. My younger brother once thought I was crazy and said, "Sister, if you're angry, don't let Mom go." I hugged him and said, "I'm not angry, I'm lucky." "What? Are you crazy, sister?" He picked up the tools and started tidying up the house. But I pulled him out to stock up on supplies. I sneered. I wasn't crazy, I had just been reborn. In my previous life, my mother gave the air conditioner to my uncle. When the terrifying heatwave hit, our family only lasted for more than 10 days in a stuffy house before dying of dehydration, but she, before she died, was still glad that she had given the air conditioner to my uncle, thinking that she hadn't let down my maternal grandfather's entrustment. She didn't even look at my younger brother who had already died or my father who was in a coma. In this life, I'll let her contribute to my uncle's family, and the 3 of us will hold on until the end. I had been working for 2 years and had saved some money. When I took out the money and bought 2 high-power air conditioners, my younger brother was stunned and said, "Sister, our house is only over 100 square meters. 1 air conditioner is enough." "It's not enough, not at all." I patted his head and said, then I asked him to go to the supermarket to grab supplies, buy whatever he could get. It was okay to spend all the money. This terrifying heatwave lasted for almost half a month. In the last few days, the power was cut off. I went to buy generators and bought 3 of them. These almost used up all my money. It seemed that I still needed my father's support. When we brought these things home, my father, sweating profusely, also came back. He was also carrying a lot of things. As soon as he entered the house, he asked me, "Where's your mom? What did you stock up on today?" "Dad, Mom went to Uncle's house to help them stock up on supplies. Also, I have something to say." I called the 2 of them into the room and then told them about my rebirth. I detailed how my mother betrayed our family in my previous life. First, she gave away the air conditioner. Later, when my uncle called and said that there were no supplies at home, she asked my father and my younger brother to send most of the things from our home to my uncle's house in the high temperature. If they didn't, she threatened to jump off the building. As a result, when my father and my younger brother came back, 80% of their bodies were sunburned. Otherwise, they wouldn't have died so quickly. However, she didn't show any remorse at all. 3. After I finished speaking, I broke down and cried. I thought they wouldn't believe me, But my father gave a bitter smile and said, I believe you. Your mother is indeed the kind of person who would do such a thing. I still have more than 100,000 yuan in my hand. Let's go out again, okay? And we also need to change the lock of the door. I'm afraid Mom will come back and ask us for things, my younger brother said angrily, but I knew they would be soft-hearted. If my mother came back, they would definitely open the door. She can't come back. Uncle's house is half a city away from ours. None of them can drive. It's even more impossible for them to walk back. You don't know how high the temperature was at that time. The trees were even sunburned to the point of spontaneous combustion, let alone people. They fell silent, and then they went out to grab supplies again. My father even bought another air conditioner. The 3 air conditioners would run alternately, otherwise, no matter how good the quality was, they might break down due to the extremely hot weather. Then we closed all the windows of the room with sunshade materials. In this way, the strong sunlight couldn't come in, and the temperature in the room would be lower. After doing all these things, we bought a big refrigerator. After all, we wouldn't go out for nearly half a month, so we had to prepare enough water and food. After all, I knew that the water supply would be cut off 5 days after the heat wave started. As for the electricity, sometimes it was supplied during the day but cut off at night. After handling all these things, our family was so tired that we collapsed on the ground. On this stuffy night, the temperature was slowly rising. Starting from tomorrow morning, the temperature would keep rising until it was impossible for people to go out. We didn't go out anymore and lived a comfortable life like this. But just then, the phone rang. It was my mother calling. Give the phone to your dad. Why can't I get through to his phone? I turned on the speaker phone, and my father asked what was the matter. My mother actually said, Honey, there are too many people here, but there aren't enough supplies, especially water. Can you go to the supermarket and buy some and send it to us? Mom, didn't I ask you to help Uncle's family stock up on supplies? Why are they still short of things? I asked curiously. In my previous life, they didn't ask for things until a few days later. Why was it earlier in this life? Well, it's because I'm living here, so there are a lot of things missing. Also, I don't have much money, so I bought fewer things. My mother's voice sounded a bit guilty, for, obviously, she was being disliked by my uncle's family. My father clenched his fists, pointed outside, and roared into the phone, Are you still human? Don't you know how hot it is outside? Haven't you seen that cars are spontaneously combusting? No one dares to walk outside. Maybe they'll catch fire while walking. But you're asking me to send things to your younger brother's family. Do you want to kill me? Aren't you able to drive? Your car is a big truck, and it's not afraid of the heat. Yes, my father drove a long-distance truck, and it was indeed better than an ordinary small car in this regard. The car may not be afraid of the heat, but people are. I don't want my dad to go. What would my younger brother and I do if something happened to him when he went out? Just bear with it. Maybe the temperature will drop tomorrow. I hung up the phone and looked at my father, who was squatting aside. He was the most wrong person in this family. He loved my mother and this family. That's why he howled in pain in the middle of the night after being burned in the previous life, because he used all the medicine on my younger brother. In the end, he still couldn't save my younger brother's life. Next, we had 2 more quiet days. The power was already being cut off now. It would be cut off for 2 or 3 hours at night. Although we had generators, we still endured it for the time being in this situation. As long as we took out the frozen water in the refrigerator and placed it in the room, it could also dissipate heat. Because I had the memories of my previous life, I wasn't afraid when the power was cut off. I knew that the country was still very capable and could hold on for at least many more days. My mother called again, crying and saying, Honey, have some pity on me. My younger brother's family won't give me anything to eat or drink. Maybe it was too dry, and she coughed several times while speaking. 5. Please come and pick me up and take me home. As soon as my mother said this, we heard my uncle yelling from behind, If you want to go home, let them bring supplies to exchange for you. Bring water, otherwise, you go out and buy it for us. I'm telling you, Dad asked you to take care of me before he died. Don't think about running away by yourself. My mother's voice was trembling as she said, You heard it too. If you don't come to send things and pick me up, I'll be killed by them. Honey, save me. My father looked coldly at the phone and said, When you were begging me, did you ever think about the 2 children? Did you ever think about how our family was doing without an air conditioner? Will I be sunburned to death if I go out to pick you up? Also, will we be roasted to death because of the lack of water? Honey, even if I die, I want to die with you. Please come and pick me up. I miss the children and I miss you too. Just bring some water with you when you come, or you can buy some on the way. My mother had never said anything gentle to my father in her life. She had always ordered him to do this and that. Now she was using all her tricks to make him send water to my uncle. What buy on the way? There were no shops with people now. Driving around on the road was simply courting death. I looked at my father. He sighed and looked a bit hesitant. At this time, my mother said, "Honey, if you don't come to pick me up, they'll drive me out to buy water. Do you have the heart to watch me be roasted to death?" 6. My father asked into the phone, "Then do you have the heart to let us be sunburned to death? Please, honey, my younger brother's family is already having trouble breathing. The air conditioner has had some problems today. It sometimes runs and sometimes doesn't. We don't dare to use it for fear of breaking it. Look at you. It would have been so much better if you had bought a better air conditioner in the first place." My father didn't listen anymore. He directly hung up the phone, then fell to the ground and pressed his head with his hands, saying, "Daughter, get me a popsicle." But I saw that tears were streaming down the corners of his eyes. If it weren't for the 3 air conditioners, and if it weren't for the fact that I had stocked up so much water and food after being reborn, we might have already been roasted to death by now. But my mother was still complaining that the air conditioner that my uncle had taken was not good. How could he not be angry or sad about this kind of heartless behavior? The phone rang again. "Turn it off," my father said coldly while eating the popsicle, so I turned off the phone. And the room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. It was too hot. Even with the air conditioner on, it was very stuffy, so we just lay on the floor. Except for listening to the radio, there was basically nothing else to do. I used to hope so much to rest at home, but now that I was really resting, I thought about how great it would be if I could go to work. Someone was knocking on the doors in the corridor asking for water again. Many families hadn't stocked up, and water was now in great shortage. We didn't have much water at home either, so no one was so kind-hearted as to offer to give our water to others. After all, when we died in the previous life, although the official report said that the heatwave was about to end soon, we didn't know exactly when it would end. Once, when my younger brother was getting some air in the corridor at night, he picked up a cat that had been abandoned by its owner. It was already dehydrated from the heat, and its whole body was dry, so we gave it some water and fed it some rice. After all, we didn't have any cat food at home. This little guy had a very strong vitality. It was already lively and jumping around the next day. It was very close to my younger brother because it knew that my younger brother had saved it. Even a cat knows how to be grateful, but people don't. 7. Maybe because I was too idle, I really wanted to know what would happen to my uncle's family. One of the 3 air conditioners in our house had already broken down. Fortunately, we could still manage by using the other 2 alternately. The power was cut off all night now, and we had to use a generator to power one air conditioner. I turned on the phone again. I thought it would be my mother calling, but unexpectedly, it was my uncle. He had always been arrogant and looked down on my father and our family members, thinking that our family was just their servants. "Prepare some water and food quickly and let your mother bring them back to me. It's too hot, and the air conditioner is broken. Doesn't your family have money? Why did you buy such a lousy air conditioner? If it weren't for the fact that we dug a tunnel, we would have already been roasted to death. But we're short of water. Where's my mom?" I felt a bit strange hearing my uncle say this long string of words, so I asked, "I sent her to your place to get water. I heard that all the supermarkets outside are closed. You murderer, she's your sister, the sister who has always thought of you. How could you drive her out of the house? Do you know that the ground temperature is almost 70 degrees Celsius now? People will die as soon as they go out." I stood up and shouted into the phone. In fact, I knew that they might sacrifice my mother in the end, but I didn't expect that they couldn't even hold on until the power was cut off. This guy was a beast, so cold-blooded that he had no human feelings at all, but my mother was willing to contribute to such a person. I wonder if she regrets it now. Just then, we heard a scream outside. "There's a dead person, there's a dead person." My father quickly opened the door and saw a person lying on the ground in front of our house. She was covered with something for sun protection and didn't move at all. We bravely removed the things on her body and found that it was my mother lying there. I never expected that she really came back, returning home under the big sun. The 3 of us looked at each other, and we could only help her in. 8. My mother's condition is now even more serious than that of my father and younger brother in the previous life. Her whole body is emitting heat, and she is breathing in more than breathing out. Most importantly, she has sunburn all over her body, and her skin will be damaged as soon as it is touched. We did stock up on burn ointment and applied some to her, hoping to relieve a little of her pain. Just as we finished doing this, she woke up. When she saw my father, she grasped his hand tightly and said, It's great that you're all right. You kept your phones turned off, and I thought you." A hint of a smile appeared on my father's face, and I also thought that my mother had finally come to her senses and still had some feelings for us, but in the blink of an eye, she saw the 3 air conditioners in the room and the ice water placed there. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red, and she said hoarsely, "So you've been living so comfortably, then why didn't you send water to us? Do you want to watch me and my younger brother's family die of thirst?" After saying that, She started coughing, my father's eyes dimmed instantly, and I also stood up and walked aside to eat my popsicle. My younger brother, however, had red eyes and shouted at my mother, "I thought you would at least care about us a little, but after you took away the air conditioner, you didn't even ask how we were doing. Now that you're back and we saved you, all you can think of is still my uncle. It was they who drove you out. You were almost sunburned to death. Why do you still care about them? Why can't you pay attention to your own daughter and son?" My mother was taken aback and said, "Aren't you all doing fine? Hurry up and pack some water and take one, no, 2 air conditioners apart and send them to your uncle's place. They're almost roasted to death." My father gave her a glare and said, "Impossible, I still have to raise 2 children. They are the most precious things in my life." My mother looked at us and said, "Don't you still have 1 air conditioner left? Taking care of my younger brother is also my responsibility. What about us? Were we born to be servants for my uncle's family?" I looked at my mother, and even the popsicle in my hand didn't taste good anymore. She opened her mouth but finally closed her eyes and didn't say anything more. For a moment, there was silence all around. My mother's health was already very poor. She coughed up blood from time to time. But we couldn't send her to the hospital at this time. The hospital had already closed and didn't accept patients at all. We tried our best to apply burn ointment to her and feed her food and water. After all, she is our biological mother, and we can't just watch her die. We were just waiting for the temperature to drop, and maybe we could send her to the hospital for treatment. But unexpectedly, one night, my mother suddenly sat on the window of the balcony. At this time, the power was cut off, but the moonlight was bright. My father was persuading her. It seemed that he was afraid of waking me and my younger brother, so his voice was extremely soft. "What are you doing? Come down quickly. Don't scare Fiona and Dean." "I don't want to either. As long as you promise me that you'll send the air conditioner and water to my younger brother's house tomorrow, then I'll come down." She was crying very sadly, and her whole body was trembling with pain. "Are you crazy?" my father shouted. I also stood up from the ground, put the phone for recording aside, and said to my mother, "You were driven out by my uncle to find water. You were almost sunburned to death. Now you have severe burns all over your body and your internal organs are damaged. It seems that you're about to die. I may soon lose my mother, but you want my father to take the air conditioner and water that are essential for our survival to my uncle. Isn't that just trying to kill my father too, although I'm an adult? I don't want to lose my parents because of my uncle's family." After saying that, I really started crying. My mother, however, shook her head and said, "I promised my father to take care of your uncle, otherwise, he would have beaten me to death. And my mother is also there. I must go back to save them." "Mom, you can't sacrifice our family's lives to save them. Our lives are also precious. And we're not tools for you to support your younger brother." My younger brother also stood up and cried even more sadly than I did. My mother had already put her legs outside the window. My father became anxious and said, "Come down first, let's talk things out." "I'll go." Sure enough, was it going to develop into the same situation as in the previous life? I immediately shouted, "But our water is almost gone, and the outdoor unit of the air conditioner can't be taken apart at all." "Mom, if you want to force us to death, just say so, we'll jump with you." I walked up, opened another window, pushed down the screen window, and climbed up myself. My mother struggled for a moment, and finally gave a tragic smile and said, "Then I might as well die. In this way, you can give my share to your uncle." After saying that, she actually jumped down without hesitation. My father's sorrowful roar and cries came from the night sky, but they soon disappeared. Downstairs, there were already countless corpses, and my mother couldn't be seen after she jumped down. 9. We didn't send my mother's share of the things to my uncle because the power was cut off. Now we're all relying on the generators to hold on. After today, we will welcome a new life because in the previous life, our family died on this day. When the sun rose, the sound of the generator was deafening. The radio was broadcasting that the global temperature was dropping, and we would soon see the dawn. However, our family wasn't very happy. Even though we had stocked up a lot of things, we could only avoid starving to death. Now the 3 of us have all lost more than 10 pounds. My father is so thin that he looks like a bag of bones, but he is still in good health and can take care of my younger brother and me. Just when we thought we could go out soon, another disaster caused by the global heatwave occurred. That was the rise of the water level. The city was quickly flooded. In the blink of an eye, the first floor was submerged. The dried corpses of those who had jumped off buildings because it was difficult to survive were also washed away, and the residents on the 2nd and 3rd floors were frantically running upstairs. Our family lived on the 10th floor, so we just felt nervous but didn't need to run away. Outside the door, people kept knocking on the door for help, but no one opened the door. No matter how kind-hearted people were, they couldn't open the door and let so many people in, otherwise Our family's living space might be taken away. Only in the dead of night did we open the door and throw some water and food out through the crack of the door. It wasn't much, but we could save one person at a time. After holding on for another 3 days, when our family was almost unable to hold on anymore, the high temperature finally returned to normal. At least people wouldn't be sunburned when walking outside. The country sent people to rescue us. And the people outside the room also dispersed. We walked out of the room, and we were staggering as we went downstairs. This was a global disaster, basically a high-temperature apocalypse. It will really take a long time to recover. Now, things like rice, flour, cooking oil, etc., are distributed by the state to each household, but every survivor must do some cleaning work. After more than 10 days, things basically returned to normal. However, the dark side of human nature was revealed. 10. My uncle actually reported our family to the police, accusing us of stealing their things and killing my grandmother and his son. It was clearly my uncle's family who pushed my mother out to ask us for things. As a result, my uncle actually said that we asked my mother to steal the things from their house and bring them to ours. He even somehow heard about my mother jumping off the building and said that we pushed my mother downstairs to save food. He demanded that we compensate him 2 million yuan, otherwise he would send my father and the two of us to prison. My father and I were simply stunned and couldn't understand why he was so shameless. Our family was taken to the police station, and we saw my uncle and aunt. They were sunburned, and their whole bodies were a bit swollen, red, and oozing pus. They were so ugly that it was hard to look at them directly. I really didn't understand why they were still threatening us in this state. My father shook his head and refused to admit guilt, but my uncle said, "How can you have the nerve not to admit it? It was you who killed my sister. You forced her to death, otherwise, she wouldn't have smuggled the things from our house to yours. The sun was so strong at that time, you just wanted to kill her." I have to say that my uncle's acting skills are really something. You're talking nonsense. It was clearly you who drove my mother out to buy water and supplies. As a result, all the supermarkets outside were closed, so you asked her to come to our house to beg for them, but after my mother managed to get home, she had severe sunburn all over her body and couldn't go back at all. You forced my mother to death. You're the murderer. My younger brother was also very excited and rushed up to hit my uncle. My aunt said, "It was you who stole the things from our house, otherwise, how could my mother-in-law and my son have died? It's hard for us to survive now. If you don't give us money, we will definitely see you until your family is ruined." I sneered in my heart. So they just wanted to extort money. They still had some self-awareness. They knew that after my mother died, my father wouldn't give them anything. That's why they came up with this idea to force my father to give them money. My father was so angry that he stood up, but he didn't have any evidence to refute them. The police also needed to investigate, so they asked us to go back first. In order to force us to give them money, my uncle didn't hesitate to start a live broadcast on the internet and cry about the cold-bloodedness of our family. The most thought-provoking sentence he said was actually, "If they didn't steal our things, why are all of them and their family alive and well? Only my mother and my son lost their lives." This sentence unexpectedly resonated with many people. They all had relatives who died in this disaster. That sense of helplessness and the desire to find a reason to make themselves feel at ease pushed our family to the forefront. Some people even said that they would find our house and take revenge on us. They said that our family didn't deserve to live in this world. People's hearts were unstable now, and indeed some people would take the opportunity to show their evil sides. Some people had already started splashing paint on our house and took photos and posted them online to show that they were justice warriors. My father wouldn't let us go out and was always worriedly looking outside, but at this time, I had already asked someone to find out the reason why my uncle's family was short of money. You know, their family still had a little savings. After all, my mother had always taken care of them, but now, instead of going to the hospital even though they were sunburned, they chose to force us to give them money. There must be other reasons. Now I know. 11. After the disaster, they were afraid that there would be another heat wave, so they wanted to buy an air conditioner at a high price. Who knew that the person took the money and ran away, and all their savings were gone. Later, when they found out that no one in our family was injured, they thought that we must have money, so they sued us, trying to extort some money from us. At the same time, he also posted a short video, saying that he got it from a friend. The video showed my mother kneeling in front of my uncle's door, begging them to let her in. She was patting the door and crying, "Brother, Mom, the sun is too strong. I will die like this. Don't talk about dying. Hold on for a while. Didn't you promise Dad to take care of me? I'm the head of the family. If I'm gone, Will you still have a home? There's a sunshade shed next to it. Put it on and leave quickly. Bring back more water. It's best to ask your husband to drive it over. Then you'll be a great hero of the family." My uncle's voice came from inside the door. He really had my mother under his complete control. My mother started to become anxious and restless under the sun, but she still said, "All right, you wait. I will definitely bring the water back for everyone. Go ahead, if you're late. We'll have to drink Mom's blood. She's old and will surely want to sacrifice herself for us." At the end of the video, my mother left the sunshade, and white smoke was constantly coming out from under her feet. After watching it, I was stunned because my mother didn't tell us about my uncle threatening to drink my grandmother's blood. Did she want to hide this matter to save our lives? Or did she forget about it because of her serious injuries? There's no way to know. But thinking about what she did in the previous life, I still didn't feel grateful for her concealment. However, I sent this short video to the police officer who was investigating this matter. At the same time, I also edited it and posted it online. My account didn't have many followers, so I also posted it under my uncle's high-profile video. All of a sudden, the situation reversed. My uncle originally relied on the money donated by everyone for his treatment. But now everyone was asking him to return it, but of course he wouldn't return it. He even accused us in return, saying that we forced my mother to death because we didn't want to bring supplies to them. 12. My uncle posted a video holding his ID card and accusing our family. This family is a bunch of evil spirits. In order not to take out the supplies, they actually forced my sister to death. Although the law can't punish them, I hope everyone can represent justice and criticize them. I even laughed out loud. Did my uncle really think he could still arouse others' sympathy as before? From the moment his lies were exposed, the only one who really deserved punishment was him. A netizen directly left a message: "Criticize others. It was clearly you who forced your own sister to death, letting her go to buy supplies on such a hot day. Is that something a human being would do?" Another netizen said, "Doesn't anyone doubt how his mother died?" I also left a message. Dying in a natural disaster may be nothing, but causing someone's death by sucking their blood is a crime. As soon as the sentence was posted, not only did netizens pay attention, but the police also took notice. But my uncle insisted that we killed his sister and said that he wanted to avenge his sister. He also called my father and threatened that if we didn't give them money, he would sue our family. But our family wasn't afraid anymore. I suggested suing my uncle in return because I had evidence in my hand. When I took out the evidence, my father and my younger brother were both stunned. "How did you expect such a day to come?" Because I know what kind of people his family are, and I also know that people who are used to reaping benefits will still find ways to gain some advantages even if the bridge is broken. They don't dare to provoke others and just think that our family is easy to bully. Okay, let's sue him in return. My father stood up and took the two of us to the police station. He handed over the video of them forcing my mother to go out into the high temperature, and then took out the video of my mother jumping off the building as well. Everyone who saw it was quite speechless about my mother and also very speechless about the shamelessness of my uncle's family. But the police said, "These are also evidence of their crimes, and we will handle them uniformly." I felt something was wrong and couldn't help asking them, "What do you mean by handling them uniformly? Has my uncle committed other crimes?" When I said this, I thought of a possibility and suddenly felt a layer of cold sweat on my back. I glanced at my younger brother, and he also thought of it. His hands started to tremble. My father also asked tremblingly, and it turned out that we really found out what crimes my uncle's family had committed. The reason why they too could hold on until the end was that they actually survived by sucking my grandmother's blood. It wasn't ordinary blood sucking. If it were ordinary blood sucking, it would be impossible to last for several days. They cut my grandmother's wrist open and drank her blood respectively. They would drink it every time they were thirsty. My grandmother had nothing to eat or drink, and she was tied up and sucked of her blood for 3 days before she finally passed away. After she died, they sucked her blood a few more times. The reason why we knew this so clearly was that someone found my grandmother's body. For other people who committed suicide or died of heat at home, they were basically in a mummified state after death, but there were no wounds on their bodies. However, there were large cuts on my grandmother's wrist. There were also wounds on her neck, which was very strange. So the body was handed over to the police station. 13. The shamelessness of my uncle's family was scolded to a new height by everyone, and my message even made the police suspicious. With such an investigation, some clues were really found. After all, if someone was tied up in the basement, there would definitely be some traces left. Now my uncle and aunt have been taken into custody. No wonder they haven't caused any trouble in the last few days. We were all shocked by the cold-bloodedness of my uncle and his family. They didn't have even the most basic humanity left. On the way back, I said softly, "Uncle has been spoiled since he was a child. He thinks that everyone should sacrifice for him, my mother, my grandmother, and our family, to stay alive. He even ate his own mother. Such a beast doesn't deserve to live in this world." Regarding the ending of my uncle and his family, we felt quite satisfied. But we didn't expect that he would actually call my father. It was really strange, you know. My uncle never calls my father, except during the disaster. My father didn't have the slightest intention of speaking up initiatively and waited for the other side to talk. My uncle actually cried, and he cried very sadly. "Brother-in-law, this time only you can save me. Doesn't your family have money? Can you find a good lawyer for me to fight the lawsuit? I really don't want to go to jail. You survived by sucking your own mother's blood. Why should I find a lawyer for you?" My father was about to hang up the phone. 14. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. I was just scaring my sister in that video, but I didn't expect my mother to hear it, and she voluntarily let me suck her blood to survive. I had no choice either. It was really my mother who offered it voluntarily. But no matter what I say, no one believes me. My uncle cried even more sadly. I don't know why, but I knew he wasn't lying. My grandmother was indeed a very protective person who was extremely patriarchal. She doted on my uncle and also demanded that my mother do the same. The reason why my mother became like this was all the result of my grandmother's teachings since she was a child. My father also fell silent. It seemed that he believed it too. I reached out and grabbed the phone, and said to my uncle on the other end, "Uncle, since I was a child, my mother has asked us to serve your family because she is your sister, but when you pushed your own sister out of the room and left her to fend for herself, our two families are no longer relatives but enemies." "What enemies? Fiona, what are you talking nonsense about? I'm your uncle. When you were a child, when I was a child, I was chased and beaten by you for 3 blocks because I fought with your son over an ice cream. Then I was beaten by my mother so badly that I couldn't get out of bed, and that ice cream was clearly bought for us by my father." After hearing this, my father's eyes immediately turned red. He reached out and grabbed the phone, saying, "You brought all this on yourself. If you hadn't provoked our family and asked us for money, these things wouldn't have been exposed. Whether you actively sucked your mother-in-law's blood or not, she was still killed by you. Go and be buried with her and my wife." He hung up the phone domineeringly. After that, no matter how many times my uncle called, we didn't answer. We went to the court on the day of the trial and saw that my uncle was sentenced to death and my aunt was sentenced to life imprisonment. They said that everything was my grandmother's voluntary sacrifice, but who would believe it? No one on the internet believed their words either. In the end, they paid the price for the wrong things they had done. 15. Our family survived the disaster and is now living a prosperous life. My father bought another big truck and started working. My younger brother went back to school, and I went back to work. After the great disaster, it seemed that everything had changed. Many of my colleagues were also missing. No one asked about it. Everyone knew why they were gone. I also smiled and said, "Mom, look at what you're saying. We're more than happy that you gave the air conditioner to Uncle, after all. He's our only uncle." "But Mom, have you ever thought that Grandma is old, and neither Uncle nor Aunt is good at doing housework, and the 3 cousins are still young? There's no one to clean up the house. When installing the air conditioner, someone really needs to tidy up a bit." My father came back in a hurry and took my younger brother with him. My mother's body was already in a dried state, but when it was time for cremation, the staff handed my mother's clothes to us. There was actually something written on it with a marker pen: "Don't give my body to my family. I'm not worthy of being their wife and mother. I don't want to drag them down. Let those who hate me keep hating me until the end." When my father saw this passage, he suddenly hugged the clothes and burst into tears. Only then did I realize that my mother probably regretted it the moment she was pushed out of the house by my uncle. Or she regretted it on the way. The reason why she insisted on coming back was just to see us one last time, in order to prevent us from being sad because of her death. She deliberately said those words to provoke us. In this life, she finally became our mother again, but it was already too late. All I could do was call her Mom in front of her grave. Story 2. I have been reborn, with just 1 day left before the zombie outbreak. In my previous life, I died tragically at the hands of my neighbor. A death caused by my own naivety and kindness. This time, I'm looking at a message from my ex-boyfriend, who happens to be a wealthy second-generation heir. Without hesitation, I reply, "Emergency, come quickly." The moment he leads me towards the bunker, I realize, life is more important than dignity. August 14th, 2025. I'm scrolling through the trending topics on my phone, and the top news is about a cicada deer biting its own kind without any apparent consciousness. Clicking on the link, I find a half-hour-long video. It was filmed by a tourist 2 weeks ago but has only just gone viral. A chill runs down my spine as I watch. I had seen this video in my previous life. At 13 seconds, a Sika deer infested with maggots appears. At 1 minute, the deer starts violently attacking its kind, blood spurting everywhere. By the 11th minute, in just 10 short minutes, the bitten deer begins to mutate. By the 20th minute, all the deer in the park have transformed. At 28 minutes, the park staff enters the area and is bitten, subsequently rushed to the hospital. Within just a day, the city falls, and the zombies invade. In my last life, I only survived half a day when the zombies arrived. Out of kindness, I had sheltered a neighbor who hid the fact that they were bitten. Eventually, they turned, leading to my infection and death from the virus. Glancing at the time, I realize it's almost too late. Did you see the trending news about the Sika deer? Doesn't it seem like something out of a biohazard scenario? My phone vibrates. It's my ex-boyfriend, Gushao. We're in the same city, but we've been living apart since our breakup. Remembering he's from a wealthy background, I quickly reply, Gushao, come to my place, drive your wooling van over. Yes, this rich guy's hobby is collecting wooling vans, the kind of van where you can't tell how many people are inside until you open it. Originally, I was fooled by the very car he drove. What's up? Want to make up with me? Emergency, come quickly. After sending the message, I ignore him, knowing his curiosity won't let him stay away. Ding dong, the doorbell rings. Are you really thinking about making up with me? I can accept that, but isn't coming directly to my house too fast? Gushao stands at the door, his face slightly red. I pull him in immediately and get straight to the point. The zombie virus outbreak is 1 day away. He bursts out laughing the next second. I just sent you a video about a Sika deer. Are you overreacting? I always told you to watch fewer horror films. Look at you now, getting all paranoid. Saying that, he places his hand on my forehead to feel for a fever. Gushao, I've never been more serious. I've already experienced a zombie outbreak once, but last time I only survived half a day. This time, I want to live longer. I need your help. I stare into his eyes. Usually, I'm all jokes with him, but this is the first time I'm this serious. It doesn't take even half a minute before he starts to waver. Are you serious? Absolutely. We're running out of time. We need to start gathering supplies. One of the reasons I called Gushao is because he can drive, whereas I've only had my driver's license for 6 months. I failed my driving test for the second level 3 times. Having a car really multiplies the efficiency of buying supplies. I quickly drafted a list on the side. Instant food is more convenient. Let's buy it by the box. Okay, I'll contact the supplier directly later. Oh, I forgot. He's actually in the food trading business. For water, we'll order it by the barrel later. I'll contact the supplier directly later. I glanced at him. Right, there's also a supplier for water. Let's buy more rice and flour. These last longer and are easy to prepare. I'll contact. He hadn't finished his sentence when I interrupted him. Stop. With so many suppliers, why even bother going to the supermarket? I felt somewhat annoyed. It made me seem useless. So, I didn't go to the supermarket. I went to my villa in the mountains. I looked up and observed the roadside. Indeed, this wasn't the way to any supermarket. I underestimated the power of money. Even mountain villas are possible. 3. The mountains are certainly safe. But we still need to install solar panels and other equipment. The journey is too long. I'm afraid we won't have enough time. Getting food is actually easy. It's all available. What I fear most is power outages in extreme weather conditions. Gushao is right. I do watch a lot of horror movies, especially zombie ones. Scenes from the movie sometimes become a reality, which scares me. Extreme weather is one such example. Hence, electricity is extremely crucial for us. Do you think my villa would lack these? I was stunned. Normal villas have these. Maybe it's just me being ignorant. Perhaps my puzzled look was too obvious. So Gushao went on to explain. My parents converted the basement of that villa into a bunker. Remember how they died? The death of Gushao's parents was related to this. We broke up previously because his parents disapproved of me. I understand. Coming from a poor family and losing my parents early, I've been on my own. But just 6 months after our breakup, Gushao's parents passed away. I attended the funeral. They died in an explosion accident, and later, even their bodies couldn't be found. Wasn't it an explosion? That explosion was a precursor to a lab virus leak. I'm quick-witted and connected the dots immediately. A laboratory virus leak. I've watched the entire Resident Evil series. The power of the T-virus is vividly portrayed in the movies. I just never thought that in the real world people would actually research such viruses that can cause mutations. This is probably also why Gushao believed me so quickly. My parents bought this villa a long time ago and kept renovating it intermittently. They took me there. The entire basement is built to bunker standards. After saying that, he stopped the car, 2 hours drive from the city, isolated on a mountaintop. A villa with at least 200 square meters of space appeared before my eyes, once inside the villa and down to the basement. I realized I had still underestimated the wealth of Guzhou's family: full surveillance without blind spots, soundproof steel walls, and even 3 water storage tanks, solar panels, generators. They had it all. However, the entire space was still empty. It was clear they hadn't had the chance to stock up on supplies yet. I quickly contacted suppliers with Guzhou. Being with him, I didn't even need to make up excuses. After all, his family owns a food company. Stocking up is a common occurrence. Within just 3 hours, we had received our supplies of food and water. Guzhou even stockpiled gasoline and diesel. Looking at the supplies piled up in the villa, I finally understood that in my youth I didn't appreciate the comforts of wealth, mistakenly prioritizing dignity as my treasure. I remembered how in my previous life I had pathetically hidden in my house, without even a bite to eat, eventually meeting a tragic end at the hands of a neighbor. Now in this life, I was capitalizing on being close to a wealthy second generation. I directed Guzhou to move items into the basement, while I made a list. Despite the abundance of items, it was still important to clearly know the types and quantities of supplies, excluding 20 boxes of pickled cabbage-flavored instant noodles, 20 boxes of sausages, 50 barrels of water. Sorry, I am a water buffalo. 10 boxes of self-heating rice meals, 400 pounds each of rice and flour. 50 boxes each of fruit and meat canned goods, 100 bags of frozen vegetables. We didn't buy much fresh meat and vegetables, as they are not easy to store. We didn't buy medicines. There were some already in the storeroom, left by Guzhou's parents. There was also a locked computer in the storeroom, which visibly saddened Guzhou when he saw it. The computer was password protected and inaccessible. All I could do was pat him to offer comfort. Once everything was organized, we decided to initially stay upstairs. The view is better, making it easier to observe the city, ready to move into the bunker in case of an emergency. At 3 a.m., the news was broadcasting a biting incident at a local hospital. The zombies were coming. Just like in my previous life, a societal incident suddenly escalated into a disaster threatening all of humanity. It would only take an hour for the hospital to be overrun. At the same time, schools and malls would experience violent incidents. In half a day, the entire city would be paralyzed. The speed left no time for reaction. Remembering the intense pain when I was bitten and the virus invaded my body in my previous life, I couldn't help but shiver. I'm just an ordinary person, without the superpowers of heroines in movies or the calm of novel protagonists. Ran, are you scared? It was Guzhou. Before I could answer, he was beside me. The pleasant scent of pine enveloped me, the perfume I had given him when we were together. I always remember how painful my death was in my previous life. Why didn't you seek me out in your previous life, you ungrateful wretch? Now you realize how good I am. I opened my mouth to speak, but then I saw a fire light up the distant sky. That wasn't for celebration, but a signal of death. In an instant, the sounds of people screaming and car horns filled the air. Suddenly, a large truck burst out close to us. It was moving fast, and in a few seconds, it would crash into the villa's gate. Guzhou, I turned around, but Guzhou wasn't behind me anymore. We were alone on the hilltop, and it was too conspicuous to keep the lights on at night, so we had agreed not to use them. Darkness stretched out behind me. The piercing sound of horns came from outside the villa. I hurried downstairs, only to find Guzhou was already at the bottom. The expected crash didn't happen. Instead, there was a sudden screeching halt. Ran, you go back up, I'll go out and check. I nodded. I wasn't the type to be overly sentimental. I knew that in these treacherous times, ensuring safety was paramount. I grabbed a machete from the corner and handed it to Guzhou. In this apocalypse, we wouldn't just lie down and wait for death. That's why knives were also on my shopping list. I tiptoed upstairs and hid on the balcony to look down. Guzhou had already left and was some distance from the truck. Before he reached it, a middle-aged man emerged from the side of the vehicle. He was tall and didn't seem easy to get along with. I couldn't hear their conversation from upstairs. Through the window, I saw the man continuously bending over, seemingly apologizing. I watched closely, feeling something was off. On his third reach towards his right wrist, I spotted the problem. Under the moonlight's reflection, there was a gleam at his wrist. I quickly grabbed my phone and zoomed in on him using the camera mode. Hidden at his cuff was a needle. Guzhou, armed with the machete, hesitated, which is why he hadn't struck yet. I couldn't care about exposing myself. I hastily opened the window. Guzhou, something's wrong with him. Hearing my shout, the man charged at Guzhou. I rushed downstairs, grabbing a baseball bat by the door, but before I could open it, The doors swung open, a figure stepped in, reeking of blood. It wasn't Gu Xiao. Whose blood was it then? Fear surged through me. I didn't know Gu Xiao's situation. I had to keep calm. I faced the man, raising the baseball bat. I certainly couldn't outmatch him in size. I could only rely on a burst of strength to buy some time. Just as I was about to charge, the person in front of me suddenly collapsed to the ground. I was puzzled. Then, Gu Xiao walked in from outside, holding a machete. His white shirt was soaked in blood. He casually turned on the porch light. Only then I could see clearly. The man had slash wounds on his chest and back, still bleeding. Didn't I tell you not to come downstairs? I quickly pulled him into the bunker. After a thorough check, I realized Gu Xiao had no injuries. The blood was all from the man, it figured. Between a knife and a syringe, Gu Xiao was bound to win. But knowing Gu Xiao was armed, why would he still attack? That night, we didn't sleep. I kept refreshing my phone. Every second new videos were uploaded. In one video, a blood-soaked man was tearing apart a woman's body. Her intestines spilled everywhere, and the woman on the ground was still twitching, not completely dead yet. I knew it would only take 10 minutes for her to turn into one of the zombies. The streets were littered with car wrecks, scenes of mad biting, blood-soaked limbs. And I even saw a video where a policeman was immediately overwhelmed by zombies after firing a shot. The content of the videos terrified me. Beside me, Gu Xiao gently held my hand, providing the only warmth. I knew he was the only one I could trust in this apocalyptic world. It seems these aren't the slow zombies from The Walking Dead anymore. At least they're like those from Train to Busan, I laughed. Once when we were watching a movie together, I told him I could take down 10 zombies from The Walking Dead. I didn't expect he'd remember that, until dawn arrived. The internet is completely down, I know. The whole city has fallen. Early in the morning, Gu Xiao and I left the bunker. The body from yesterday was still thrown outside the door. We needed to check, just in case. However, when we went outside, other than a pool of black blood, there was no sign of anyone. I couldn't help but frown. This suggested that the zombie virus wasn't just transmitted through blood and saliva. It might be airborne too. Gu Xiao had the same thought. It looks like we'll have to be even more careful now. Even non-fatal injuries could likely lead to mutation. I nodded and followed Gu Xiao. We were now going to check the truck. Gu Xiao mentioned that the man from yesterday had been led here by faulty GPS directions. However, as the villa was located on a hill, surrounded by forests, the GPS route didn't include this area. This excuse seemed dubious to Gu Xiao, who knew the area well, so he was on alert from the start, which ultimately allowed him to turn the tables. Ran, come take a look at this. I snapped back to reality and walked over. It was a vial of medicine. The label read Sakura language. I had studied a bit of this in university, human test reagent T78931. This was probably what he intended to administer to Gu Xiao yesterday. Let's store it in the bunker's fridge for now. There was nothing else in the truck, the only clue being that these items seemed to be related to the Sakura country. In the following days, Gu Xiao and I lived off the food we had stored. The bunker's power system was independent, equipped with solar panels and generators, so even though the entire city was out of power, our standard of living was unaffected. Gu Xiao made sure I ate 3 meals a day, and I even gained a bit of weight. Gu Xiao, have you figured out the computer password yet? These past few days, we had been trying to contact the outside world, but to no avail. With nothing better to do, Gu Xiao began attempting to crack the computer, but he had tried all the passwords he could think of without success. I've given up for now. This computer has an auto-destruct system that activates after too many failed attempts. We only have 3 tries left. Bang. I was just about to reply when I heard a noise upstairs. Gu Xiao pointed to the surveillance room. The entire villa's surveillance system was inside the bunker. I looked at the screen. A few zombies had broken into the second floor of the villa. Their skin was a pale gray, their faces rotting and crawling with worms. They were wandering the second floor, searching for us. I looked at Gu Xiao. Although the villa wasn't as secure as the bunker, its walls were much thicker than those of a normal house. Yet these zombies had appeared out of nowhere. Gu Xiao controlled the surveillance, watching the screen, until I saw a window on the second floor, half open, and felt a chill run through me. I clearly remembered closing that window. This proved that zombies weren't completely mindless creatures. In the 3rd week of the apocalypse, since the zombies entered the villa, Gu Xiao and I have been living in the bunker. The zombies upstairs hadn't left. They still lingered in the house, probably attracted by the residual sense of our previous life. And there were no other creatures on the mountain to draw them away. Fortunately, the bunker entrance was designed with a password mode, which, as long as there was electricity, couldn't be opened by any means other than the correct code. Unable to do anything else, we used a telescope to look toward the city. We had no idea what the situation was like in the city now. All I could do was tune the radio every day in this era without internet. Radios might just be the only thing that can still bring hope to humanity. Today was another day without results. Gushao was still fiddling with the computer. Could it be some special day, like an anniversary, or a day that holds meaning for them? If you're talking about a special anniversary, I tried their wedding anniversary, but that wasn't it. Could it be possible that it's... I remembered the vial of medicine we found in the truck, which had a string of codes on it. I pulled out the medicine. The previously gray-green substance now appeared as a deep gray viscous liquid under the light, and it emitted a foul, rotting smell. 78931, try this one, ding-dong. The sound of the computer unlocking echoed through the room. Ran, you're really smart, definitely smarter than you. I moved closer to look at the computer screen with Gu Shao. Unlocking the computer was the best news we had had in a while. However, there were no extra files on the computer. There was only one folder named A City Human Body Data Report. Still, this was also locked, and the string of numbers didn't work this time. Gu Zhao's expression visibly fell. I knew this computer meant more to him than just data. It likely held clues about why his parents had died so suddenly. Though officially, they died in an explosion. But everything his parents did was deeply linked to this virus. It'll be okay, I softly comforted Gu Shao. Instead, he turned and buried himself in my arms, rubbing against my chest. I blushed, unsure if he was just upset or taking advantage of me. Do you think they could be the source of this accident? He looked up at me, his gaze sincere. I've met your parents, they were strict, but good people. He paused. I knew he was probably thinking about how his parents had disapproved of me before. I stroked his soft hair and softly told him that I didn't care about that anymore. His eyes welled up after hearing this. We didn't even have many details to discuss when we broke up. Back then, we were both stubborn, neither of us willing to back down. I was proud, felt that his parents had trampled on my dignity, couldn't accept his explanations, and just broke up. It's fortunate that he persistently kept in touch. We managed to maintain our friendship, but with the apocalypse, I realized that pride wasn't that important. You really are ungrateful. Week 5 of the apocalypse. Extreme temperatures have arrived. The temperature difference between day and night is huge. During the day, the heat reaches up to 50 degrees Celsius, while at night, it can drop to minus 30 degrees. We observed that under these extreme weather conditions, the activity level of the zombies significantly decreased. Meanwhile, I developed a high fever in these conditions. Even with electrical support, my body couldn't withstand the temperature fluctuations. Fortunately, we had already stockpiled plenty of medicine, and Gu Shao even cut back on his sleep to monitor my temperature. In my feverish stupor, I always dreamed about things from our past lives. In fact, I had been in touch with Gu Shao in my previous life. Just when I had brought a neighbor back home, Gu Shao messaged me. He asked, "Are you okay?" Looking at my neighbor's pale face and then at my own blood-stained face in the mirror, I replied, "I'm fine. Don't worry." He texted back, calling me heartless for not getting back together with him before, asking if I was scared now, if I needed him to come find me. Before I could reply, my neighbor started making noises. I saw her vomiting black blood, and by the time I approached, she had begun convulsing all over. Her body kept shaking and twitching, and her skin rapidly turned bluish-black. By the time I thought to get away, she had already picked herself up from the ground. Eventually, she bit my neck and blood gushed out, staining my favorite white carpet red. The virus entered my body, bringing excruciating pain. I glanced at the mobile phone on the floor, which still displayed the message I hadn't sent. "Gu Shao, take care of yourself. I'll come to you." It was the 7th week of the apocalypse. My cold had finally gone, but my body was still very weak. I lay in bed, fiddling with the radio. Hiss, can anyone hear me? Are there any humans still alive? Can you hear me? The military is clearing up. Please everyone reach Century Square in the southern city by the 5th. The military will be waiting there. I sat up and checked the time. Today was October 3rd. There were 2 days left until the military rescue, and we were 126 kilometers away from Century Square in a straight line. Not knowing how much further we had to detour, my body hadn't fully recovered. Even if it had, Gu Shao and I couldn't possibly reach safely. 2 days' time, and the journey in between could waste who knows how long, not to mention the various car accidents and robberies at the onset of the apocalypse, and the noise from driving could attract countless zombies. Gu Shao showed no reaction upon hearing the news, his head bowed, lost in thought. I guessed he was probably thinking of a solution, thinking about how to break through to Century Square. Although our bunker was safe for now, we would eventually run out of food, and the equipment would break down sooner or later. Going with the military, though risky initially, was better for long-term prospects. I looked at the computer Gu Shao had placed in the corner. The files inside would likely be very useful to the military, if in my past life I still had the heart to consider others. In this life I am completely selfish. Gu Shao, do you think the computer, that document, and the syringe of medicine are enough for the military to come and fetch us personally. I looked up at him. I was actually quite scared when I said this. I feared Gushao would call me selfish. After all, this city had a population of over 20 million. Even if the virus had taken the majority, at least a few thousand to tens of thousands of people would remain. But he didn't. Gushao just looked at me, came over, and patted my head, praising me. Ran, you're smart. After tuning for a long time, we finally made contact with the military. The good news was that we no longer needed to go to Century Square. The bad news was that we still had to leave the bunker and head to a petrochemical company 30 kilometers away. The military needed a large reserve of fuel, and that was the closest location to us. October 5th, noon, Gushao and I prepared to leave. The military would probably arrive around 4 p.m. under normal circumstances. It would take us about 40 minutes to drive there, but with the current unclear road conditions and potential encounters with zombies, we allowed extra time. Gushao, how long do you think we can survive this time? I asked as we were about to leave. My heart was racing, and the fear of zombies made me break out in cold sweat. I still remembered the pain before I died in my past life. It was so painful. I didn't want to endure it again, with me in this life. I'll ensure you live until 99, he said. His words made me laugh, easing some of my worries. The zombies upstairs were still there. We needed to be careful as we walked to the door, trying to avoid direct contact. The entrance to the bunker was very close to the villa's main door. We just needed to keep quiet. Gushao and I each put on clothes drenched in perfume. The perfume was a gift I had given Gushao before, which he happened to bring along while sorting out supplies. Zombies distinguish people's positions based on smell and sound. By wearing clothes soaked in perfume, we masked our scent. His face was pale with fear. A group of zombies had caught up to us faster than expected and were now only a few feet away. Gushao pushed me fully into the car, shouting for me to stay down. He slammed the door shut behind me, and just as he was about to get into the driver's seat, a zombie grabbed his arm. In a desperate struggle, he managed to free himself and jump into the car. The driver immediately stepped on the gas, and we sped away from the horde of zombies, leaving behind the chaos and the menacing roars that seemed to echo in our ears even as we distanced ourselves. Relief washed over me, but it was mixed with an intense rush of adrenaline and fear, knowing how close we had come to not making it. His pupils suddenly constricted. There was a zombie right behind Gushao. Its face was hideous, its body reeking of decay, and its veins, swollen and dark, covered its entire body, and its claws had already hooked onto Gushao's coat. The temperature fluctuation was extreme, scorchingly hot during the day, so we only wore light jackets when we went out. That thin jacket was no match for the zombie's nails, elongated due to mutation. I heard Gushao grunt in pain. The others in the car, who had been checking the vehicles behind us, hadn't noticed what was happening here. Damn it. He's been grabbed. Take out the zombie first. We'll talk later. Hurry, the other cars are coming. It only took a single stab to pierce the zombie's head. As the dagger was pulled out, dark brown blood splattered, covering Gushao's clothes. I quickly pulled him into the car, but the man in the passenger seat pressed the bloodied dagger against Gushao's head. Girl, he's been grabbed. His voice was cold, devoid of emotion. I knew this was what they were supposed to do, but I couldn't accept it happening to me. I fought back tears. At that moment, I preferred to be selfish. If you insist on not taking him, then the medicine we mentioned in the earlier broadcast, I won't be able to give it to you. He can get on the car. I'll tie his hands with my clothes and gag him. He won't bite anyone. Please, I beg you. I stepped down to the car's side, clutching my backpack tightly and holding on to Gushao. I could feel Gushao's body temperature dropping significantly, his usually warm hands becoming stiff, and I could even feel the veins bulging out on his hands. Please, I'm really begging you. I had sworn in my previous life that I wouldn't be a saint again, but if it's Gushao, I'd rather keep him, even if he turns into a zombie. Captain Chin, the medicine is crucial for the higher-ups. Let's take them first, and I'll sit in the back and watch this guy. If there's any problem, I'll shoot immediately. It might have been the approaching main force or maybe my loud crying that made them fear attracting more zombies. Hearing his words, I hurriedly got into the car, but Gushao showed no intention of getting in. His eyes were bloodshot, and the veins on his face were turning a dark blue-black. Ran, it's dangerous for you if I stay with you. Gushao, if you dare not get on, then I'll let a zombie bite me too. The man behind Gushao didn't care about that, seeing me inside. He pushed Gushao into the car with both hands. After getting in, he unfastened his own jacket and secured it tightly around Gushao. The space inside the car was cramped, and Gushao kept convulsing. I held his bound hands, unable to stop sobbing, unable to utter a word of comfort. In my past life, I had endured this kind of pain. Pain spread throughout my body, my blood boiled, yet my body temperature kept dropping. No. Watching Gushao suffer this pain was like reliving it all over again. Ran, promise me, if I hurt you, remember to kill me. Gu Shao spoke those words. It seemed as if he had exhausted all his strength. I could see him desperately clenching his fists, his nails digging into his palms as he struggled to stay conscious. Outside, the zombies howled, the vehicle behind us nearly broke down, and the faster zombies caught up, terrifying the people inside with their screams. Inside our vehicle, the soldier who led us on board aimed his weapon at the zombies, firing shots now and then. All I could hear, however, was Gu Zhao's heavy breathing. I'm sorry, so sorry. If it weren't for me, I didn't finish my sentence, but I knew Gu Zhao understood what I meant. What I wanted to say was, without my presence, Gu Zhao in this life would have lived as carefreely as he did in the last. Perhaps he would have ignored the messages on the radio. He loved his freedom. The military was certainly not his first choice, yet, in this life. Gu Zhao left his most comfortable bunker because of me, because he knew I disliked living days without hope, and would seize even the slightest chance available, so he came with me, at the cost of his own life. Miss Ren, he really can't go in. We didn't kill him when he turned into a zombie, and that was already considering the medicine's sake. I looked inside the vehicle, losing any trace of humanity. Gu Zhao sat dazed in the back seat. You see, he hasn't hurt anyone. Zombies are not creatures without intelligence, something I had already discussed with Captain Chen on the ride. Gu Zhao had proven this point. After turning into a zombie, he didn't attack anyone randomly, he just sat quietly inside the vehicle, not even making a sound. It's the rule, no one can defy it. If you really can't leave him, it might be safer to return to your original place. If I give you the computer and the medicine, could you send us back? Captain Chen was silent for a while, then nodded. October 6th, 2:45 p.m., Gu Zhao and I returned to the bunker. Captain Chen escorted us back, and along the way, he helped kill a few zombies in the villa. I handed over all the necessary information to Captain Chen, hoping someone could develop a cure. He told me that the medicine and computer had already been handed over to the internal research team yesterday, which indeed helped them. But the specifics remained to be seen. Finally, Captain Chen gave me a satellite phone, telling me to contact him if there were any problems. After we returned, Gu Zhao willingly went into the storage room. Initially, I couldn't bear to face him, but then I found myself constantly clinging to him. I fantasized, perhaps like in the novels, that an intelligent zombie might one day revert to being human. But fantasies are, after all, just fantasies. The first month after Gu Zhao and I returned, he was still a zombie with low intelligence, merely sitting in a corner of the storage room. I tried letting him out, but he resisted. The second month after our return, he was still a zombie with low intelligence, his body emitting a rotten smell. I tried to clean his body, but the decay from inside out meant the smell wouldn't go away. The third month after our return, he was still a zombie, now gaunt and withered. His once refined appearance faded with time. The proud and spirited young man was no more, leaving only a skeletal frame covered in skin. Every time I enter the room, Gu Zhao tries his best to lift his head and look in my direction. I'm not sure if his clouded eyes can still see me clearly, but I know he probably still remembers me. It was the second year since Gu Zhao and I returned to the bunker. The satellite phone given to me by Captain Chen rang for the third time. The first time, it was to inform me that their squad was clearing zombies. Captain Chen happened to be near the bunker and called to ask if I needed any supplies. At that time, seeing the plentiful food reserves inside the bunker, I declined his offer. The second time, it was because the researchers had cracked the encrypted files on the computer, since the computer was provided by us. Captain Chen shared the basic information with me. The initial source of the zombie virus was a small island in the cherry blossom country. The company there intended to conduct virus experiments but accidentally caused a leak. The leaked virus merged with cells from certain animals, mutating into the zombie virus. This virus began to spread wildly on the island, and in order to contain the information, the cherry blossom country blew up the island, killing all the researchers and islanders. However, the virus did not disappear. The company's headquarters did not learn their lesson and became even more aggressive, secretly conducting experiments in China, the beautiful country, and other nations. Gu Zhao's parents were researchers inside the experimental facility in City A, China. The encrypted files contained all data related to the human bodies in City A, under the guise of cancer treatment. They were quietly conducting human virus experiments. Gu Zhao's parents were initially unaware, only gradually understanding as their research deepened and their access increased. When the company discovered they had started to contact outsiders, they killed them. The sudden appearance of a truck outside the villa previously was likely the company checking the villa after the virus outbreak. They feared that Gu Zhao's parents had retained the virus data, which, if discovered by others, would lead to global condemnation of the cherry blossom country's actions. After Captain Chen finished telling me all this, I sat in the storage room and relayed the information to Gu Xiao. His reaction was noticeable when I mentioned that his parents were initially unaware. I knew this was his heartache, and now, at last, it was resolved, the third time, which is now. Captain Chen told me that the researchers had finally succeeded in developing an antibody for the zombie virus. However, it wasn't a cure. Experiments on zombies with the injected vaccine showed that 15% of the intelligent zombies slowly reverted to being human. Hearing this, my legs went weak, and I knelt down. Even a 15% chance was better than no hope at all. A week later, Captain Chen handed me the antibody vaccine. He also gave me a handgun with just one bullet inside. He didn't explain what the handgun was for, but I understood. If the antibody was ineffective, the zombies would become completely mindless creatures. And then it would be time for Gu Xiao to be freed from this state. I returned to the bunker and opened the storage room. The stench of decay mixed with blood hit me instantly. Zombies can survive a month without food, but they lose vitality. Over these 2 years, fearing Gu Xiao's body might deteriorate, I had been drawing blood to nourish him. Initially, he refused. Even though his eyes were red with distress, he wouldn't drink a drop. Eventually, perhaps due to unbearable hunger, he slowly began to accept my blood. Gu Xiao sat disheveled in the corner and looked up in my direction when he heard the door open. With the nourishment of blood, his body was no longer just skin wrapped around bones. I carefully approached and injected him with a syringe. The moment the liquid entered his body, Gu Xiao almost instantly reacted. It might have been pain or simply discomfort, but as he raised his hand to swipe the syringe away, he carefully lowered it, cautious not to hurt me. On the first day, Gu Xiao showed no reaction. On the second day, there was still no reaction. On the third night, I opened the door to the storage room, and Gu Xiao's eyes were still clouded and unclear. Gu Xiao, I'm begging you, this is the last thing that can save you. I moved closer, wanting to embrace him, but Gu Xiao, disregarding everything, tried to bite through my neck. In that moment, I lost all hope. At 6 a.m., I entered the storage room again, wearing the white dress that Gu Xiao loved most. It was the dress I wore on our first date. Back then, he looked at me against the sunlight and said how nice I looked in white. If I killed you, would you blame me, Gu Xiao? I touched his face, and he turned his head, almost biting my hand. He looked up as if he was trying to see me, but his eyes were still unclear, those eyes that once were so bright. The next second, I raised a pistol. Cough, cough. Calling you ungrateful is really spot on. Not even waiting half a day longer for me, I froze on the spot. The gun in my hand fell to the side. I watched as he struggled to sit up, vomiting large amounts of fresh blood. The cyan-black color on his body slowly faded, his veins gradually returned to normal, and his skin revealed its natural color. Gu Xiao, my voice trembled as I looked at him. I walked the few short steps very slowly, fearing it was all an illusion. It's me. He opened his arms to me, his eyes clear and bright. I seemed to see that boy from before, standing in the sunlight, laughing freely. I no longer hesitated. This time, I ran toward him with determination.